Hey everybody, Sukhdev Krishan here from Creative Discovery Group. I'm excited to be here with you again today. And today I have with me Mitali and Gina. I'm so excited to have these two here today. We have a little bit of a meeting, a team meeting with you guys here today. So this is exciting. Gina's joining us for the first time. Gina, do you want to talk about a little bit about what you do and who you are? Introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name's Gina Gardiner, and my work is all around personal empowerment and transformational leadership. If you want to lead others effectively in an enlightened way, then you have to lead yourself first. So it's about how do you become a profitable leader? How do you lead in an enlightened way? That's with integrity, compassion, and the courage to do what's right. So for me, it's all about helping people step into their genuine power.
Very awesome. And Gina and I have known each other for about a year now, I'm guessing. It must be give or take a year. And we've and when we started a podcast show together and had, 3 series of that, and now we're doing this. So we have we always talk about relationship building on here, and this is a really good example of building relationships and making things happen. And Mitali's been on your show. You have your radio show and your podcast show. You do a whole bunch of different things. So Mitali's been on your show as well. And
yes, and you're going to come on sometime soon. It's the W4CY radio and TV show. You can catch it live on a Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern or 6 p.m. UK. It's on YouTube and it's on all of the major podcast stations if you want to download it. Leadership for Life is the title, and a real mixture of things to help you in your personal life, but also in your business life. Mitali was a great guest, talking about getting a book written, becoming an author. And one of the things we're going to do before we finish today is to schedule you in for June, so that you become a speaker too.
Awesome. That sounds good to me. Very cool. So getting into, we have this event coming up with Mary Buffett in September. We're aiming for September. And so you're an author yourself, Gina. You're an international best-selling author. Tell us a little bit about your experience when you're writing your books. And if you could talk about just the overall, like from the beginning, from when you start writing, and then some of the waves that you go through, the ups and downs, and you're motivated, and then you kind of crash, and then you question yourself, and all this stuff. It comes in a big emotional roller coaster. Can you talk a little bit about your experience on how that affected you, and just for
I've written books.
I've
written different types of books for very different reasons, and each of the types of books has brought with it a very different experience. So my first 2 books, which were Kickstart Your Career and How to Manage Your Staff More Effectively, were written because I was transferring from one business arena to another, where I had no credibility. So I'd been a principal or head teacher for 20 years. And although I'd helped many schools develop enlightened leadership within their organization, I was not known in the business world. And so I did some research about what makes a great leader and the issues facing organizations around leadership. And so I wrote my first 2 books. I didn't have a clue how to go about it. I had well over 20 years experience of developing leaders, but no experience about writing a book. And in the first instance, I went to publishers with my idea, which they liked. And I was asked to create a framework, which I did. And then they proceeded to unpick it. And so ultimately, the book they wanted me to write was nothing like the book that I wanted to write. Also, they said it would take 18 months minimum to get the book on the shelves. And I didn't want to wait that long. So I wrote my first book independently, but I had a friend who was a publisher. And so each of the different elements, and this is in 2005. So it was really quite complicated, and you had to find people to do each of the elements, and it was a very complex business in terms of publishing the book. But I had it all done professionally. It cost me about £5,000 a book to have that done. And the books were published, and you couldn't get print on demand then. The minimum number of books that you could order was 500 each book. And so you suddenly had another big bill for printing the book. And then I used it as a very expensive calling card. So I would send it the information once I'd had a conversation with somebody, mainly in the corporate world, and I'd send them a copy of the books, and that gave them a real indication of who I was and how I operated. Then fast forward to 2009, and I wrote Chariots on Fire, which was my first personal development book, and that was written actually as a result of the recession 2008. I'm just conscious of some feedback, of noise feedback. Can you hear at your end as well?
Just a little bit.
I wonder if I turn this down. And so I wrote Chariots on Fire, and to do that, I used one of these halfway publishing houses, indie publishing houses. But they wouldn't let me use the book later on as a freebie. And so I'd moved on, my thinking had moved on. And so I wrote Thriving, Not Surviving, The 5 Secret Pathways to Happiness, Success and Fulfillment. And both those books have now become international bestsellers. And I wrote that book, again, with the help of someone who knew what they were doing in terms of the publishing. And beyond that, I wrote the 7-Day Happiness Challenge. More recently, I've started to write a very different sort of book, which is an intentional workbook or journal, which is designed with sharing the principles in the first instance, and then it's designed, if you like, as a self-development program for people, where they actually work their way through their questions. And those have been self-published on KDP. Much simpler, much more straightforward. The books themselves are much less complex in the sense that where Thriving, Not Surviving was 75,000 words. These intentional journals, the introduction varies from 3,000 to 10,000 words, depending on the subject. With all of the books, and where Mary Buffett comes in is, in my opinion, the writing of the books is the easy bit. Other people may disagree, and I know Mitali is a great expert in getting books written.
I agree with you. I actually agree with you. A lot of people think writing a book is difficult, and it's you started at a time when it was difficult, and it sounds like you've had your experiences actually match what a lot of my students have experienced, Gina, with traditional publishers and these indie publishers. In the one sense, it's nice to have somebody say, hey, your book is great, we want to publish it. But as an entrepreneur, they can really clip your wings, because ultimately they can say, well, we don't want you to promote it like this, or you're not allowed to give it away for free, you're not allowed to do a half price sale. And as an entrepreneur, it really annoys you, because it's like, it's my goddamn book. I want to be able to do whatever I want to do with it. So, your experiences match a lot of what my students have experienced and why they choose to go down the self-publishing route. And I'm glad that you've gone down that route, because you just have that independence. But yes, I agree with you. A lot of people think writing a book is the hard bit. And it's not. It's actually now reasonably simple, especially if you have someone like me on board. It's what you do afterwards that counts. There's a lot of people who kind of write a book and they stick it on Amazon, and they just think the world should now stop turning because I'm an author, and the rest of the world goes, we don't care. We're not bothered. We don't care. It's what you do next that matters. It's leverage. That's the word I'm looking for. You have to know how to leverage your book effectively. I think it's wonderful what you did with your first book. You literally use it. You said an expensive calling card. I would say it's probably the best calling card you can ever have. No business card would ever be able to convey how knowledgeable you are about a subject in the way that a book will. So I bet
It's
you
interesting because
they've
it
got a ton of
opens
business from
doors.
that.
It can open doors that otherwise would stay firmly closed.
Absolutely.
But I do think the whole business of how you leverage it, how you get people to recognize that it's there, to see it, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
And, we're going to be talking about the opportunity to speak on stage with Mary Buffett. She's internationally known. So when you get the opportunity to speak on radio shows with those people who already have a reputation, then you are piggybacking on their reputation, because people then in their minds, they see you and the person, in this case, Mary Buffett, and the two of you become synonymous. And so what you're doing is you are opening the door of opportunity by saying, I'm going to be presenting on the same stage as Mary Buffett. That gives me status, it gives me credibility, it gives me reputation, so that other people then can see, she must know what she's talking about, or he must know what he's talking about, because look what's going on. Now, is that a reality? Is that an illusion? It actually doesn't matter, because perception is all. Our perception becomes our truth. It's not the only truth, but it is the truth that we have. And so people's perception is, if you're on telly, if you're on radio, if you're on one of the major magazines or newspapers, if you are working in conjunction with a celebrity or a well-known person or somebody who has a great reputation, by association, you do too. And those people who come onto the stage with Mary Buffett will have an opportunity to let their local paper, their local radio know. They'll be able to use it on their website. They'll have the opportunity to put the interview on YouTube and so on. And so it's in one go, one hit. You tick so many boxes, don't you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. It really is. It's just it's like a massive way of leveraging. I mean, whatever it is you're doing, if you're an author, if you're already a speaker, but you want to go to that next level, maybe you want to, if you're a speaker at the moment, but maybe you're speaking for free and you want to be able to get to a stage where you can charge to speak. Well, what more social proof do you need than being on the same stage as Mary Buffett? So whatever you're doing, you are able to level up by being on the stage with someone like her.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for me, it's credibility. You can short circuit some of the challenges to get known. The internet is an amazing thing, but there's so much white noise. How do you rise above all of that white noise and get noticed? And if you don't do something proactively and you're hoping that suddenly somebody's going to discover you, the chances are you're going to be disappointed. So in and of itself, being on the stage with Mary Buffett isn't going to make you a fortune. It's, again, what you do with that. It's another platform, another lever that you can use. But the difference between having your book and doing it cold, if you like, and going and being interviewed or being on the stage with someone like Mary Buffett is you borrow some of their credibility, you borrow some of their reputation. And that's priceless, isn't it?
I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we give them the tools to level up, and then it's up to them what they do with the tools, what they build and what they create. So,
and with all of this, I mean, it's, if you like, this is life in microcosm. The whole of life is what you do with it. And lots of people think that the grand gesture is going to be what makes the difference. Well, the grand gesture only works if you then continue to make use of it moving forward. It's the small things consistently done which make the difference. But for me, the utilizing of this opportunity is it kickstarts, it accelerates the process, And if you choose to use it wisely, it can be a great investment. If you just go on stage with Mary Buffett and then think that's it, you're not going to get as much out of it. But if you do the preparation and you let people know it's going to happen and you talk about it, you blog about it, and so on, you can really make significant mileage out of it. And it's the same as writing, going back to the writing of your book. You know, you've got a great idea, but unless you sit down and you do the work, it's not going to happen, is it? And you know, you help people break it down and make the whole thing manageable, but ultimately you still have to in some way engage with it on a consistent basis to make it happen.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's why I wrote my book, because I was so sick and tired, Gina, of so many authors coming to me and saying, yeah, I wrote a book and I stuck it on Amazon. I'm like, great, wonderful. And then what did you do? I went, well, it's on Amazon, and that was about it. And I wanted, you know, I mean, I would say I surprise a lot of new students, because, you know, the first question they expect me to ask them when they start my program is, so what's your book idea? And instead, the first question I ask is, tell me about your business. How is a book going to fit into your business? And they're usually taken aback a little bit. They go, oh, I thought they were ready. They had the speech prepared of, you know, they're going to tell me about this wonderful book idea that they've got and what's going to go into it. And I say, no, that's second. Tell me about your business and tell me about how does the book fit into your business. And they go, oh, I haven't thought of that. So that's the first thing you need to be thinking of.
It's interesting because I think and this is just a personal view, there's a huge difference between writing a novel where
Yes.
it's a creative idea that you want to share that story, although the mechanics may be the same, to I have this area of expertise, I have this area of experience that I can use to help somebody move in their journey. And for me, my thing is leadership, as you know. It's so important, not only because by sharing that experience and expertise do you move other people on, but through the process, you evolve too. And what I think is really interesting, and particularly around the enlightened leadership stuff, is the book is an ideal way to offer support to people who are at their stage of evolution. You've moved on, so you've left that legacy for people who were vibrationally at the old place, and you've moved on to the new. And so there's this constant evolution of what was goes into a book, what I'm developing now. I move on, what is now becomes what was, and so I write a book. And I move on. So this is constant iteration of sharing evolution, but it's there for people who are ready to take that on board. So you never finish.
No. I'm already thinking of book 2 and book 3, Gina. So yeah, you're right.
So what are some things that could help a new author really stand out from, you know, they write their book. Yes, they put it on Amazon. Well, what are other things that they could do to stand out above the rest?
Well, I think, as Gina says, it's all about leverage and it's all about perception. It really, really is. I mean, I talk about books because I'm a book coach, but this works for everything. So I always say that, you know, there's a reason why the word author is in authority. Because the perception is that if you're an author on something, you must know more than somebody else or most other people to have been an author. So, for example, if you're a fitness coach and you write a book about how middle-aged women can get rid of their muffin tops, you're going to be seen as an expert. You're not just another fitness guy that you see down at the gym. You have to be an expert. Now, the reality is, that person may not actually be more expert than, just the gym instructor down at your local gym. But the perception is that they must be. They've written a book on this, so they must be an expert on fitness in the way your average gym instructor isn't. And it is all about perception. That's to do with books, but that kind of carries on with everything. And what Gina was saying about being aligned with the right people and kind of, riding on their coattails a little bit. When you're aligned with someone like Mary Buffett, the perception is, oh, wow, this person must really know what they're talking about. Otherwise, there's no way Mary Buffett would be on a stage with this person.
Yeah.
So it's that perception. So when you're an author, you have to be aware that writing the book wasn't the be all and end all. It's what you do with it that counts. And I've seen quite mediocre authors, should I say. I'm not going to name any names here. I'm not going to get myself into trouble. But I know some mediocre books out there, written by mediocre authors who are doing extremely well because they just went out there. They spoke on the right stages with the right people. I offer a service where I help people get citations from major US networks. That's another way of borrowing limelight, borrowing celebrity halo. So being able to say, as seen on Fox or as seen on ABC, again, that helps. It's all about what you do with it. I always say, if you write a book, actually, scrap that, not even just books. If you're an entrepreneur, so not even if you're an author, if you're an entrepreneur, you have to learn to blow your own trumpet. Otherwise, go and get a job. Because it's just not going to work. You have to blow your own trumpet.
I think there's a connotation, a perception, isn't it, of blowing your own trumpet, particularly in the UK. And I've noticed there's a significant difference between the UK and the US. I don't know about Canada. I think they're probably somewhere in the middle. That it's being vain. I would say it's about own your expertise. If what you have, and I think knowing your why is so important, because if you know why you've written the book and what is it that you want to do in order to help other people, you don't make it about you. It's about, I've been through this. This is my expertise. I can save you time, energy, effort, pain. You don't have to make my mistakes. You can learn from me. That's what learning from the masters is all about, isn't it? That you actually accelerate your journey because they've been through all of the quicksand and they've been through all the cul-de-sacs and they've fallen down the ravine and they've actually made it to the top of the mountain. Some mixed metaphors there. They can help you traverse the mountain in a much more effective way. Once you know your why, then you've got something to speak about, whether it's Facebook Lives or if you can get LinkedIn to ever agree for you to be videos live, or you can blog about it, or you can go on to TV and radio shows, podcasts, you can have articles about it. But rather than aren't I wonderful, for me, I think this is what I can do. This is what I've done, which can help you get where you want to do. And I don't like to focus on the problem. I like to focus on the solution. So if this is what you want, so that's why it's so important to know what your why is. And your first conversation about, tell me about your business, okay? What is your why? How is a book going to enhance what you're doing? Who are you helping? Why is that important? You don't actually have to talk about yourself at all. Because it all becomes about, what can I do? What experience have I got that can help you or whoever's listening? And that stops being, ego-driven and, I'm here am I, aren't I wonderful, to, I'm a little ahead of you. Let me help you. I can solve some of your issues before you even have them. And that's what you're really good at doing, Mitali, isn't it? That you stop it being an issue before it even is an issue.
Exactly. And you've hit the nail on the head. You've hit the nail on the head there, Gina. When you start thinking in terms of, and like I said, this is beyond being an author. This is just being an entrepreneur.
This is life.
this is just life. Yeah. If you think in terms of how am I adding value, how am I helping somebody else, then it doesn't feel like you're blowing your trumpet, because what you're trying to do is get the message to as many people as possible. Because if you can solve a problem and you have the solution, then it's really incumbent on you to tell as many people as possible. In fact, keeping it to yourself then becomes selfish. Actually telling people about it becomes the right thing to do. And I think not enough people know about that. And that is why, and I do think there is a cultural aspect there as well. In the UK, we do feel like, we should just be discovered, like we have this wonderful thing and we should suddenly be discovered, and not realizing that, no, we have to make ourselves be discoverable. And the only way to do that is to blow your own trumpet. But it's not as uncomfortable as it sounds, because if you're constantly thinking about what you can do for your potential customers, you're thinking of the solutions that you can provide, then it's actually, like I said, it flips around and it's now selfish to keep it to yourself. So I'm getting on stages, I'm talking about your business, the solutions that you provide, the transformations that you can create. It's not blowing your own trumpet. It's something that you should be doing, because you want as many people in the world to know about the solutions that you provide.
And I think that when you do it from that vibration, here am I am of service to you, then things shift. And many people are uncomfortable about speaking about themselves once they recognize that actually it isn't about you per se, it is about what you can offer. And in my experience, most people, once they get into that frame, feel very confident because they're passionate about what they do. And if you think about the rationale behind all of this program with Mary Buffett, there is an even bigger why behind it, isn't there? Sukhdev, I mean, do you want to share the bigger why? Because it's not only helping.
Make sure my battery doesn't die.
It's not only helping the authors, is it? It is actually got another very important reason.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll make a bit of an announcement right now for the audience. Tune in 2 weeks. June 2nd. I believe it's a Wednesday. We're going to have Mary Buffett.
That's next week.
Is that next week?
Yeah, June the 2nd is next week.
Oh, okay.
Time is passing quickly.
Yeah, it's going by quick. So June 2nd, we'll be having Mary Buffett on, in our live with us. So it'll be really interesting, really fun. And we're going to be having Mary talk a little bit about the why, which is autism. So we're going to be helping out Autism Speaks through this event. It's not just like, we always have something that's bigger. We always go for something that's bigger, and we want to help and serve. So Mary will be with us talking a little bit about that. So make sure you tune in for that. We are running out of time. We have about 2 minutes left. Anything else you guys want to add before we shut her down?
I was just going to say, I'm just aware that people seem, they feel shy about shouting about their business, their book. And, that's another great avenue. If you're aligned with a charity, like, where we've aligned ourselves with Autism Speaks, again, then it becomes like, oh, I'm not blowing my own trumpet, then I'm helping a cause. So think in terms of that. Think of how you can promote yourself without it feeling like self-promotion. And another great way is to align yourself with charity.
Every person that your book is designed for, you can make a significant difference. And if you're clear about your why, and your book is structured in a way that somebody reading it is going to have a greater insight, more confidence, a better understanding, then that's a book that needs to be published, and it needs to be out there to help the number of people. How many billion people are there in the world? There are going to be a significant number of people for whom your book will be just the thing that they need. So it is incumbent upon you to get it written and get it out there.
Yeah. And when you get your book out there, remember about this event that we have going on, because a lot of you people will write your book and you don't want it to just be a story that you tell. I wrote a book. Hey, guess what? I wrote a book. Do something with it. Market it. Put it out there. Get on stage. Be seen. Help people. And we'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.